Welcome to Clever Orbits. I am one of your hosts, Louis Mac Allen. This will be the only episode where I give you both of my middle names. And there's only one human who I know of who has the right to call me only one of them.
Ooh, is it me? Is it me?
What's that?
It's me.
It's not
I
you.
think it would be me, Tyler
You.
Addison, Batman Brantmeyer.
Fun story. Tyler, you'll like this story. For about 3 or 4 weeks, I was dating this really hot Latina go-go dancer in North Austin, and I let her call me Mac.
Wonderful.
And
Gone.
it was kind of weird, but I think Grandpa really needs to hear that story at some point, because Grandpa's name is Mac, everybody. Okay, so Louis Mac Allen Brantmeyer. That whole like curly Q maybe wasn't necessary. And who else is here?
Richard Futrell.
And Stefanie Jemison.
You heard me already.
So what are we talking about tonight, Louis?
Same thing we talk about every night, Pinky. How to... Oh, wait, wrong TV show. We're talking about Discovery and the episode known, interestingly, as Lethe, unless somebody's got a better Greek mythological pronunciation than I do. I'm totally open to that.
I believe Lethe is conventional.
Okay, well... To start us off, and everybody be freaking silent as I go through this because I worked really hard on it.
Oh, God.
Try not to laugh because I probably will.
I challenge you to try to do it all in breath, Louis. That's as long as your soliloquies are.
Our captain, who art the Kirk.
Show us your capacity
Iberius
to breathe.
be thy middle name. Enterprise, may it rise. At warp 9 be thy game. Thy lady's love, thy will be done. No dammits or illogicals too profane. Give us this day our daily victory. For thine be the ass kicking, the leadership, and the cleverness now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
That was orbital.
Amen. May the force be with you.
you just like negated the first thing with the second thing.
Sorry.
It's
Yes.
okay. I forgive you. It was funny.
Gandalf said, use the force, Harry.
I did do that. I did do the opening prayer that Stefanie requested a couple weeks ago.
I'm so happy that you follow through on that. You don't even understand. It's just that was great. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm actually reading the autobiography of Jean-Luc Picard, so maybe I'll have another one next week. Maybe. So yeah, let's get to the episode. I have surprisingly few notes on this, which means I'm actually not going to talk as much for most of this thing as I have been just now. But it was basically this episode. Lorca gets a lot of character action. Burnham gets some Well, it looks like she might get some action soon. Which would be really interesting to see, actually. Like, how does a human who was raised Vulcan, who's just kind of awkward, discovering her emotions, engage sexually? Like, that's...
Klingon.
Yeah.
It's entirely logical to masturbate.
I really want to... Oh, my God. Vulcan porn. Oh.
They need to rechannel that sexuality into science.
So anyway, it's been 4 days since I've seen this episode. I watched the After Trek, which I recommend because it's pretty decent and fun. If you've got CBS All Access, which I know some people protest. Does everybody on here actually have that?
I do.
I do too. And
I'm sorry.
Good. Go ahead.
I said I like to download it illegally because I like to stick it to the man whenever I can.
Yes, man sticking.
I do like the idea of you man sticking, Stefanie.
At least 4 days a week.
That's good. I think that's probably most enough for you. So yeah, this is turning out to be a very different podcast than usual.
It's okay. I kind of like it. Now, I made a couple of notes. As promised, I was very drunk when I watched it. And,
did that enhance your experience?
It really did. So my first note is Vulcan suicide bomber. And then I remember one thing.
Suicide, right? Okay, but continue.
Yeah. I think that was a good opener for it. Just the suicide bomber. I just thought it was so out there as a Vulcan idea, and I liked it. I thought it was great. You know how ultimate logic can really. I guess you can logic out your own life in a way.
The needs of the many. Cool. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
That's right.
The real issue there is philosophically how you constitute the needs of the many and the needs of the few. Like, if you distinguish that, well, I need to die in order to prove some point to some guy who's like not going to be able to communicate that point to anybody but himself, which I thought that was silly, right?
I think his goal is to destroy that ship and end Sarek's mission and possibly kill Sarek.
I thought Sarek was really cool in that he waited until the last possible second to turn on the force field, because it seemed like, and this is my guess, his reasoning was that, you know, this guy with the suicide bomb stuff going through his system might make a sudden move that I can't control or account for. So I'm going to give him all the seconds. I mean, like, he was logical to a point, to a T. And I think Sarek is the standout star of this episode, incidentally. Like, just the way that he shows up as in his depth as a character in a way that adds to the original series perception and the Next Generation perception of him. And then like the subtlety of him. And then even like the Vulcan martial arts was okay. I mean, it's not the best thing in the episode, but like, this is finally, people are always asking on the internet where, you know, people ask questions like this. Why is this a prequel? Why couldn't we do most of these stories in a future past Voyager? And like, well, because things like this with Sarek. I mean, you can't do this particular episode any other time. And it adds this interesting depth.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm almost done. This interesting depth to the Sarek Spock thing too. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I meant like I was going to kind of follow up on that. Like I was really skeptical when I first saw the Sarek thing. I'm like, oh man, they're just kind of trying to go back into the old one. But I really feel like this part really gave a lot of depth to his very diplomatic missions. You know, you actually get to see, you know, some of the hazards that he's had to go through to become this very respected and kind of prosperous diplomat. I just thought it was a really cool episode. I love this actor. He's kind of fantastic. So I think it was a cool storyline.
Yeah.
Good to go back and watch Journey to Babel after watching this. You notice a lot of interesting stuff.
I mean, if you're
there's a scene where
there's
a scene where Bones is trying to get information out of Spock's mother about Spock's childhood, and he asks, did he have any human companions growing up? And Spock's mother pauses. She doesn't say no. She says, well, he had a teddy bear.
Interesting. So it's implied that, well, it's nothing explicit was implied there, but the possibility remains that he did actually interact with Burnham, which like means that he might be on this show at some point.
And for some reason, his mother didn't want to mention that.
I'm going to nerd out for a little bit. I think we mentioned in Enterprise. Remember when Tuvok, I'm sorry, T'Pol and Archer were going to the Vulcan planet, and they had that big, terrible creature that was going. What was it? The name of them? I forgot.
Did you just confuse Tuvok for T'Pol?
I did not. I corrected myself, sir.
Racist.
Okay? They're two T syllables.
Both Vulcans.
They're both Vulcan. You know, same difference. But remember the creature that like that terrifying creature that like went and tried to scare them, and she explained that on Vulcan those are kind of like pets, that like they're teddy bears. I think that's the creature that they were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called the Sealot, if I recall correctly. It's
Thank you.
It's also depicted really well in the animated series. Like Spock in the animated series like cuddles up to the thing, and it's really like pet-like for a while.
That's fucking adorable.
It's beautiful.
Wicked.
One issue with Sarek in this episode, though, is in that scene when he's lying in the bed in the sickbay at the end, just look at his neck. His neck is huge. Like, it looks like he's a professional wrestler or something with that neck. Go back and check it out.
Perhaps he was
I don't understand.
Somewhat firmly against the gurney.
I like it. You know, in retrospect, he reminds me a lot of like the guy on the Narada. You know who I'm talking about? Bad guy from the 2009 film. When he's he's just like
the one who saw it happen.
Yeah. Well, at one point in that film, he's just kind of like, his head is almost motionless, and you just see him kind of listless for a second, and then somebody calls out his name, and he kind of looks, but he just doesn't want to move his head, and it's like a Vulcan expression of deep emotional pain, but not expressed. And excuse me, that's a paradox and a contradiction in terms. It's a way of subtly expressing deep emotional pain visually, and that's another cool thing that I think Discovery does, which people don't like, but I really love, is that they mix Kelvin timeline and Prime timeline type visuals. Now, that doesn't mean that they're using Kelvin timeline stuff. It just means that they are realizing that the universe could manifest visually in several different ways, and perhaps it has in the Prime timeline manifested in ways that we would have associated with Kelvin. For example, Vulcan is freaking beautiful. Vulcan is gorgeous. That nebula is gorgeous. That ship Sarek gets on looks like the head of Andros from Star Fox.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
or
Vulcan's
maybe some
cool.
kind of Batmobile.
That initial shot of Vulcan is also very similar to Search for Spock.
Oh, yeah, with how the ship lands. You're right. Anyway.
Space is really colorful in this show. It's never just black with stars. There's always all kinds of stuff there.
There's some fan out there who's like, I really want us to go back to black with sequins.
It would be more realistic.
Especially this episode. Nothing but green, red, and blues among the stars.
Nebula may be the prettiest thing I've ever seen on Star Trek. I swear. I mean, it's like being inside of a beautiful Christmas tree. Literally looking up pictures of that nebula. I love it so much. And there's no pictures on Google. Thanks, Google. How helpful you are. Anyway, Stamets is getting cool. And if you were watching After Trek, you saw the preview of the next episode where he's positively hippie-like. And I really like him now. Him and Tilly are my favorite characters.
They're definitely improving.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of liked them before, too.
Yeah, he was kind of grouchy and angry in a funnish way.
He was mean. Now he's just weird. It's really very funny now.
Well, I have a note here that's is probably the most important thing we're going to cover. Stephanie, what do you think of the opening sequence? like with the credits and stuff, pass out on her keyboard.
Guess there's nothing to say.
There's nothing.
Oh no,
there's nothing to say. Okay, well, maybe we'll get her back at some point. For some reason, I put that on my list of notes because I guess I was curious. I watch it every week with my coach and one of my best friends, Artemis, and he absolutely despises the opening sequence. He thinks it's a shitty excuse for a pile of dung.
I don't like it either. Have you seen the YouTube video that puts the Discovery opening sequence to the music from House? It fits really.
That's perfect. It does have the same pacing. It's the same, basically the same thing. It doesn't mean anything.
I think there should be space and ships flying around in space. I don't want to be reminded that this is fake, and by seeing all these blueprints.
This is how a phaser is assembled. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to redeem.
And maybe in another 3 seasons they're going to add an upbeat tone to it and speed it up by 4 times, just like they did in Enterprise.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about Enterprise.
I hated that song so much that it was always so long for me.
Eventually that theme song was fun. Eventually I liked it because it was familiar to me, and psychology tells us the more you're exposed to it. Mere exposure effect. Oh.
Yeah, it didn't happen with me.
So I guess since they jump in this episode, that must mean Stamets is hooked into the machine.
Yes.
Isn't that really weird? But no one's talking about how weird it is. He's just going down and getting hooked up, and no one seems to care.
Yeah, you would think him getting stabbed would be a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But it's an afterthought.
They're just we figured out how to do this. You just got to wire up your chief engineer or a chief astromycologist to the nipple clamps, and it works.
I don't know why that's so funny every single time.
Stamets, we need to go somewhere. Nipple clamp now. Chop chop. And he's happy as a lark to do it, of course. Happy as a lark to do it these days.
The preview to the next episode, you find out that they actually go through his arms, and but there is these cybernetic pieces attached to his arms to make it not extremely painful every time it happens. So yeah, I've allowed myself to be okay with consuming stuff ahead of time. So I watched some of it, but yeah. So the
good
shuttle was cool. The holograms. Okay, you guys want to talk about the holodeck thing?
Yes.
Sure.
There are holograms of that caliber in Enterprise. And the fact that in the original series we didn't see holodecks on the original Enterprise doesn't mean they weren't there. And we do, in fact, see something like a holodeck called a rec room in the animated series.
Yeah.
It's almost identical with a holodeck. Like you go in, the visuals change, the actual atmosphere changes a bit. They already have food synthesizers, and these food synthesizers work really fast. And one YouTube guy said, "Hey, there's no real replicas in the name," and the fact that one of them may be more complex and like effective, a version of the same technology. And so, like in Enterprise, you get that little holographic ball that they shoot in phaser tests. And you also get that in Next Gen. And so you get a kind of hologram, and it gets more complicated as time goes on and the technology evolves. And we also see, and this is why they make those holograms that, have the communication holograms so jumpy and messed up, because like in the 23rd century, when you started to use those, they were crappy. And so they stopped using them for like most of the rest of the 23rd and then the 24th. And
See, I thought it was more of a nod to Star Wars, like a little bit of, because their holograms are always kind of, they look almost like identical to how they look in Star Wars to me. But maybe that's just my imagination.
Yeah, they were very similar to the holograms in Star Wars. Like, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, my only hope." I remember.
You're my only pope.
You're my only pope. But
that's exactly what I heard. Not you, Francis.
Yeah. No, sorry, but it's a natural concomitant of them having holograms for communication. So we really should have seen this coming. We didn't really expect something this complicated, but and a lot of people like to say, "Oh, they didn't have holodecks back then," and whatever. Okay. One of my favorites.
I recall that didn't they?
Go ahead.
Let's go back to the holodeck. Didn't they get holodecks from the technology from Enterprise? Remember when Trip went on that ship with the alien and he was tripping out for a while, and they had some sort of holodeck technology that they acquired? Isn't that what they developed? Or they suggested that that's what they developed the hologram or holodeck technology from?
I don't think
that's possible.
From them, but they were made aware of it by them, so maybe they did eventually like try to develop something like that. So technically, as we meet them in Next Gen, they are a combination of like transporter, replicator, and like visual illusions. And so what we really got with the holograms in this episode were kind of like, it was kind of like laser tag. It was kind of, it could have all pretty much been visual simulation. Like there's no necessity that there was like physical force, unless you guys remember a moment where they like actually hit the Klingons. I don't.
Yeah, we didn't see that. It could have been entirely visual.
Yeah. So anyway, this is one of those. I was gonna say, one of those reviewers that I love to hate or enjoy reading, but sometimes vehemently disagree with. Her name is Catherine Trendacosta, and she writes for IO9, which is a really great like sci-fi fantasy news aggregate site. And she was talking about how, hey, I love Star Trek, but I hate asking these nitty-gritty canon questions because it distracts me from the show. And I really just want to enjoy my Star Trek. And she was saying, I hate that this is a prequel because it brings up all of those questions. And I'm like, already had our apologia for why, it's interesting to explore those questions. But it also, like, is kind of the place where Star Trek gets its head stuck up its own ass.
Well, can't we just shut up and enjoy the show? It's just supposed to be good science fiction. Like, why do we have to get so wrapped up in this big, uniform, cohesive universe? We're just flying ships in space. Fuck. Just
if you start to treat it like just like stories, right? And I'm saying that that's a valid perspective. I'm still going to enjoy like connecting the dots in my head because they're playing with a large canvas it filled up a lot. And when you respect what's already gone before, it like creates this narrative cohesion and this like, oh my God, when you read what Christopher Bennett or Judith and Garfield Reeves-Stevens do with the existing Star Trek canon, like elements, as if they were paints on a canvas, bringing it all together, like it's beautiful, it's elegant, it's fun, it's cool, it rewards every amount of attention and iota of precise, like paying attention you've done as a viewer or as a reader of Star Trek. And so like there's a huge opportunity for respecting all the art that has gone before, creating a new art that fits into this whole realm of what's happened, but doing it differently. And then also like making subtle gestures and references. And so like it's more the subtle gestures and references that we get to appreciate because of the attempt to respect canon. And the downside of that is that we are conscious of all these nitty-gritty details. So it's like you watch Monet or Monet paint all their life, and you appreciate the paintings done at the end of their life better because you can compare them to all this vast previous knowledge that you have. And so Star Trek is like that. And I'm sure with any artwork that has that quality of entering a long and hallowed and nuanced and intricate history of similar artworks, you're going to get people who are like, I don't like it anymore. Like 9 Inch Nails past year 0, terrible. So anyway, that's my 2 cents coming from the aesthetic point of view. Actually, it's funny because when I was in college, I took philosophy of film, and every Tuesday night I would watch a movie, analyze it philosophically, and write an essay. And I was like, my God, I could do this forever. And so I really appreciate you guys hearing this piece of it, because that's something I love, is aesthetic analysis. And we used to say that Clever Orbits was about bringing graduate level analysis, interpretation, and engagement to the complex literature that is Star Trek. I mean, it's also about fart.
And then you invited me.
yeah, and then it became more about fart jokes and sexual innuendos, but that's cool too. I mean, I
want to talk about the disco shirts.
Okay, please, aren't they awesome? Yeah. I am so close to buying one.
So I saw the disco shirt when they were running, and I was like, disco? Well, I'm really so happy they still appreciate like disco music. That's kind of cool. And it took me a good 30 seconds to realize that it's just an abbreviation for Discovery, which is fine. But then I started thinking about like the study of music, in this era of time when, this utopia, that there's probably some guy that just couldn't get into Star Trek, to the Starfleet Academy, who's just doing his thesis on like the true origins and locations of Funky Town or something like that. Like that, there's still have a lot of, like a deep appreciation for disco music, and I just really wanted it to be in that era somehow. But I really want that shirt, and I would like to go running in it, like Tilly.
Do you think the shirt says "Vuri" on the back?
This is a classic Richard question.
That's a good point.
I don't think so, Richard.
The shirts were definitely successful from a merchandising standpoint. I'm pretty sure that they're selling very well.
Yeah, Richard, you really nailed it last week when you talked about like an all access pass. Like
all access pass. Speaking of which, the screen quality was not good, but I don't think we need to talk about that very much.
The Star Trek we are watching now it has product placement in it. So that's just something
what placement?
They created their own product for the show, and then they placed it in the show, and then they're telling us. I just put the link in our feed. Like they're telling us you can buy it now. You too can look like you're exercising on the USS Discovery.
No way, really?
It's a real thing. It's for real. It's serious. I
am the market for that. Like they really thought of me. I want that. Yeah. Thank you.
It's $27. It's on StarTrek.com. So anyway, yeah. I really wanted the command uniform, but that's a little more pricey. And okay, we've never actually talked about the uniforms on here. I think they're really cool, except for the fact that line down the middle is askew from center.
Yeah, it is, and the collar is asymmetrical too.
Yeah, it's like, what? Except, you know what? The uniforms in Wrath of Khan were not entirely symmetrical as well.
Yeah.
So, I guess we've got precedent.
I think the bigger issue with the Discovery uniforms is you can't tell what someone's division is. It's like gold and silver and bronze, but gold and bronze, like, they look the same. Are they going to have, like, platinum for higher level people?
I think they do have little insignias about, like, if they're in, like, the science or federate, like, within the badge.
They do.
Right?
Definitely they do.
Yeah, it's nothing like those nice primary color shirts.
Yeah. Or the nice change of primary color for, next gen, right?
Nice, even TV lighting.
So, we're really missing out on some of the depth. Not the depth. Like, there were things that I noticed that are really cool. I love Burnham as a mentor. I love Lorca as a mentor and Sarek as a mentor, especially because there's this clear contrast between all three of them. Like, Burnham is kind of unwilling but realizes the responsibility that she has. Sarek is like diehard gung-ho about it, even to the point where he's like totally guilty and ashamed when he fails. And then Lorca is, I'm not clear that he should be anyone's based on the things that he does. So
Yeah.
I love Lorca. I love everything that Jason Isaacs does. Like I've said before, I would watch him mop a floor, but I loved him in this episode. I thought that the way that captain came to scold him and then just ended up banging his brains out all night was just awesome. That was great. Just good for you, bro. Like, way to relax in times of dire need, you know?
Still messed up. Yeah, I knew you would enjoy Jason Isaacs boning Jane Brooke. I don't really. I mean, she's okay. I'm not really attracted to her, but I mean, they're about the same level of attractiveness. So,
I mean, I don't think that either of them are all that attractive. I think that she really overreacted to his being upset when she woke him up that night.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, the guy's literally at war. He's a soldier. Like, you don't wake up a man when he's deep in sleep when, like, there's a war going on. That just seems like a very illogical kind of jump to be like, oh, you're totally unqualified to be the captain of the ship, or I'm going to go back to Slarfleet and just make sure you're, I was just hoping. I just knew she was going to die before they got back, but I was hoping anyway.
I think she went in wanting to get rid of Lorca and was looking for an excuse, and she got it.
Yeah, she was looking for an excuse. No, actually, I just heard you differently. I know what you were trying to say just now, that she was looking for a reason to get rid of him. But I think she actually, when it came time to, like, talk to him, she could have been all professional and said, no, we're not going to drink. Like, she could have she's an admiral. She could have been like, I'm sorry, I'm putting you in handcuffs now and taking control of your ship. Like, they're friends. They have a previously established relationship. And I think she was looking for a reason not initially to. And the whole drama of the scene where she's just slept with him is, like, not just her feeling a little guilty for breaching protocol, but, like, realizing, oh, how wrong I am and how biased I was and how, like, screwed up I've been. And then she caves again. And she's like, no, you know what? I'll take it from you later. There's something else I got to pay attention to. And so, I mean, their whole interaction. And then I love that this episode is such a character episode. Sarek and Burnham, Lorca and Cornwell, which, I mean, there's a really terrible, horrifically, like, graphic pun we could make about her last name. But I'm not going to do it. Going to withhold that.
Well,
why are you withholding from us? Come on.
Cornwell?
You guys have never had well corn before?
Never mind.
Like a well full of corn?
I'm trying to figure out what I want this podcast to be rated. And I think PG-13 is where we stop. So, anyway.
Aww.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed right now.
TV-14.
TV-14? You can't
So how many F-bombs can I drop before it's still...
before we lose the TV-14 rating.
This is so fucking cool.
Thanks, Tilly. I might just start calling you Tilly, Stephanie.
I'm okay with that.
That's a compliment. Yeah.
Yeah, I love her. I think she's awesome. I love the running opening with her. I just love that she's just kind of hustling along, and then she keeps on talking to Burnham, and she gives her that extra motivation to go faster. That Burnham doing that with her is literally what I do all day, and it was really exciting for me to see her do that. So that was kind of nice.
I don't know how this will cast me. I mean, maybe it'll make me sound like a chauvinist pig or something, but I'm really attracted to Tilly, and it's because like she's got a little weight on her, but not a lot. Like she's still got kind of the voluptuous like Christina Hendricks style, but not as much. Anyway,
I was actually wondering if she was wearing a fat suit, and part of her story arc was her just like getting really fit and confident and like shedding it or something.
I don't think they're in the 23rd century.
In the 23rd century, I don't think there's going to be any overweight people either.
True, they must have figured it out.
Why? Because World War III
people in optical physical fitness. What's that?
Well, I mean, like what World War III involves. What was that guy, Colonel Green, killing off all the fat people? You guys remember? He was the eugenics guy who was like, "Oh, there's so many people deformed from the nuclear weapons from World War III. We have to just let them die. The ones that have got mutation, or else they'll screw up the human race."
I mean, I guess you could do that.
Maybe he was like, "Now we finally got the excuse we need to kill all the fat people."
That's one solution for obesity in America.
That's pretty terrible. Just eat raw food. Anybody who's listening who wants to lose weight, just eat fruit and vegetables for months. It's simple. It's so simple. It's universally applicable and powerful and quick. Anyway,
sure.
Yes, it quickly happens.
One diet for all people. Of course, that works for everyone.
I've just seen it work for everyone who does it. That's all I'm saying. So the soul graft. Like, I think we should talk about this.
Are you talking about the Sarek Burnham thing?
Yeah.
Do you mean the imprintation of his Katra on the...
Yeah. The Katra getting all up in Burnham.
Yeah, all up in Burnham.
I thought this really had a lot of lead back to Cheech and Chong and the Coruscant brothers. Do you remember that? There's this Cheech and Chong movie about these two brothers that when one twin feels pain, the other one feels the same pain. And for some reason that brought up. Okay, so nobody's heard of it.
I am unfamiliar with this reference.
It's a great film.
Well, we'll have to take your words for it.
That's all I have to say about the unity between Burnham and Sarek. That's all I took notes on.
Oh, well, thank you for your notes. I think Sarek had to make a difficult choice. I think Burnham was like laudable and really cool in this episode, and I think Lorca, I used to really love him, but now, and I still am interested in the character. I was talking to Steve earlier this week, and he was like, yeah, I don't care if he's good or evil. I think the fact that he's kind of gray makes him interesting. And I was like, okay, yeah, it's like watching Walter White, kind of. But
Walter White's a little more black than me.
Yeah, I mean, like, so the thing that really made him, Tyler, if you mute, I think we can hear you typing. The thing about Lorca is that he makes a couple decisions near the end of the episode that makes it seem as if his interests and his survival and his needs and desires and like whatnot are more important than the survival of a Starfleet admiral, than the highest good for Starfleet in the war, and being self-aware to the degree of like being able to say, hey, I maybe am not the best person to captain this ship right now. Kind of like Commodore Decker in the Doomsday Machine. Like, he wouldn't have seen, and he didn't, his own faults, failings, and flaws that made him a effed up Starfleet captain, which is why Kirk had to get Spock to relieve him from commanding the Enterprise. So Lorca, I think, is like, it's like watching, and this is what makes it interesting. We're not watching a Kirk in his prime making decisions with effortless fluidity and ethical subtlety and, clear virtuousness. We're watching somebody who's like dealing with some stuff and is not making probably the best decisions at all times and might even be degrading. I mean, I think Admiral Cornwell's evaluation was probably true. Like, he's probably not fit to command, and she was just being generous and nice and friendly to her friend who just fucked her, in letting him have the ship. And I think that was also her mistake, because maybe if, I don't know, things could have played out at the end of the episode differently. I think if Discovery had been there rather than just sending her by herself with a couple red shirts. So anyway, let's talk about this. What do you guys think?
I don't think he had any real obligation to go rescue her. I mean, the rules he's operating under give him a choice. It's up to his discretion. It's also the fact that she accepted that mission. So it's not like he sent her. She outranks him.
He also has a tendency to like completely either disregard, disobey, or choose whatever he wants to do if it seems right or suits him. For example, at the beginning of the episode, because he wants to win Burnham's loyalty, he just he cuts off not Tuvok, the Vulcan admiral, and he jumps the ship to try to save Sarek. And I'm trying to remember I'm sure that he's disobeyed orders before. So if he really wanted to, it's within his character to go and save the admiral. And the fact that he doesn't because it's fortuitous for him seems to imply he has more needs than.
I don't think it's necessarily fortuitous for him. I thought that he was trying to aspire good morale, and I guess you could say that he inspires loyalty. But I mean, Sarek was also on a diplomatic mission to help the war. So I think it also worked in his favor to not just to win over Burnham, but to get back this guy who's actually might be a pivotal role in this war.
Mm. I think he's ethically questionable. That's my conclusion. I don't know that he's evil. I just know that there's a space in which he operates that's tricky that makes it. I don't really want him to command a ship that I serve on. I want him to be commanding a ship, and I want him to contribute to the war effort for sure. But I don't want to be on his ship.
He's certainly questionable.
And I mean,
I think you could argue that's also what makes him the most interesting. As far as all the captains that you've seen, they're all very black and white, I think. And I really love that you can't really establish what his motivations are. With Sisko, you could tell he was all about family and honor and doing a great honorable job. But then later on, he did have a few kind of moral tribulations. But I think that every captain has always been very clear on their final values and what they really want. And I think he's kind of got a nebulous there. And I like that.
That is well said, well put, well articulated. I love it. And I agree. That is what makes him interesting. Usually ethical situations were kind of foisted upon these captains. Janeway suddenly has a new crew member that's the combined form of two other crew members. And then this is actually an ethically questionable decision for her, but it's not something that arises out of her character. She separates them. She kills the new character to bring back the old two that got combined. And objectively speaking, yeah, that makes her decision questionable. But usually for her, for Picard, for Kirk, it's the situation that causes the ethical drama and dilemma. It's not their unwavering commitment to choosing and doing the good in all circumstances or the highest good for all involved. So for him, yeah, it is interesting to see a human Starfleet captain who isn't quite the hero that we expect a Starfleet captain to be. And that's, I think, good writing. I think they're doing it well.
Yeah, I really love that he kind of comes from a place of failure and shame that's kind of really evident in almost every motion and action he does. I just, I see him as a guy who's really trying to do everything to be redeemed.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, he's trying to redeem himself. He's trying to heal. Well, he doesn't have the emotional intelligence to realize the need for him to be with and release and heal his own shame. So it's going to be ever present, ubiquitous as motivation for him. But it's interesting how they together, him and Burnham, they are both, in spite of their own resistance to dealing with the emotions for themselves, they're healing each other and are drawing each other forward on that path towards redemption. And I mean, so this is me as a coach speaking, right? The healing and the redemption comes from within, and the external circumstances are just extra and added. And if you think you need something outside of you to change your self-concept, then you're kind of going to take a long time and whatever. But it's good to see them both where they're at and moving forward. This is why Discovery is Discovery, because we get to see people change and grow and develop in subtle and interesting ways. That is as cool as all of those one-off episodes where nobody changed in Next Gen, because it's different. So
they're discovering themselves.
Yeah.
They're discovering
Good
all
place
the
for an
wonderful
echo.
merchandise that they're available on StarTrek.com.
Yeah, you bet they discovered those T-shirts. And I'm kind of sad. Well, not sad. I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get more Stamets in this episode. Like, I really want to see more of how he's developed because we will discover what it means to be human and kind of tripped out from him. Yeah, and I'm really glad that there were only holographic Klingons in this episode. Well, okay, up until the end, there were only holographic Klingons. And then the end, I saw that coming. I was just like, okay, this is bad. This is not going to go anywhere good.
Wait, isn't the end where the captain kidnapped, right?
What?
How did it end again? I saw it 4 days ago.
Oh yeah. This is a clear operational error for this team. We really we need to go less than 4 days between watching the episode and recording the podcast. I had trouble remembering some of it. So the Admiral goes to this neutral planet with these big egg Stonehenge head looking people, and which were actually decent looking aliens for aliens, but the Klingons are like, yeah, we're not actually here about peace, and they kill the red shirts and they take her hostage. And so that's a thing. That's a nice high point of drama now that we've got.
Yeah, I cared so little about her character that I did not care that she got kidnapped. I was happy. I was like, yeah, sweet. No worry.
Yeah, they really didn't have the viewer invest a lot of personalized empathy into her, which is kind of and it's interesting because usually, historically, the admirals are ethically questionable themselves, and I guess she follows suit, literally and figuratively, I guess. Yeah, I don't think we've ever really seen an admiral get kidnapped and care about it too much. So it's kind of throwaway drama at the best. It would have been more interesting if somebody we cared about, I agree, had been kidnapped. Yeah. Let's see, my last couple thoughts on this episode. I think, I'm really excited about next week, right? We get Harry Mudd back. We get the Discovery version of the Next Gen episode Cause and Effect, where they're in a time loop and they've got to figure out how to keep the ship from being blown up, and probably it gets blown up every act. That would be really interesting. Those aliens look cool. I wonder where Harry Mudd got that gold goblet from. You can tell I've watched the promo 3 or 4 times. Actually, this was really hilarious. So I was watching it with Artemis, and I was like, dude, you want to watch that again? Because it looks so cool. And he said something he made some comment about the promo, and then we watched the promo again, and I was like, dude, you want to watch it again? And he made the same comment, and it was like we were stuck in the time loop, watching the time loop. It was hysterical for a half second.
There have been episodes of Star Trek dedicated to that.
Yeah. So I give this episode a 9 out of 10. It was successful. It was enjoyable. It was engaging on a character level, dramatically from multiple angles. We dealt with 4 separate characters really vividly. So final thoughts from the crew.
I'd say 8 out of 10.
Yeah, why the negation of the 1 point?
I don't know. There's just an element of enjoyability that I require for a 9 out of 10. Maybe something ineffable.
Okay.
I give it an 8 out of 10.
No, Tyler, you can't do that. That's not a meaningful number.
An 8 out of 10. He gives it a fraction.
I'm actually trying to calculate that. So Tyler, I just calculated what that is. 8 out of 9 out of 10 is 0.08888888889. So you gave it a 1.
All right, add 7.
Damn it, Tyler. It was funnier when you actually were sticking to your guns.
I thought that was funny. That's funny. I also gave it a 7 out of 10, Tyler.
I think 7 is 8.
For me, I'm looking forward to the next episode. Peter says, because remember it was saying the burritos, and it says 2 appetizing and nutrition-filled burritos.
Yeah.
That's also.
I want to hear somebody order French fries and it'd be like, you are killing your body.
You're like, I don't shit, computer. Just give me the food.
Food, yeah.
And leave the fucking trans fat in there.
I I think the fact that the theater's like by people even talking about eating organic versus not organic and like whole concern with diet. Actually, there's a really great article. I've mentioned this before that highlights a lot of things from Next Gen. And okay, I know Stefanie might not love this, but a lot of things from Next Gen talking about how we don't eat meat anymore, and we don't enslave animals for food. Right? Literally says this in the episode with the giant fish in the first season of Next Gen. And so, like, it seems that human consciousness is moving in this show or these shows towards wanting a more ecologically, ethically option.
Some fried catfish. Really? He's not going to eat that replicated shit. He said it multiple times that it's not like the real thing. So
I want replicators so that I can eat meat again, honestly.
I bet you do.
I just, well, that went there. I just want them to make sour punch straws.
Yeah. Here's the best question. What would you do if you had a replicator in infinite like energy? What would you do? What would you eat?
Would it replicate the sour punch straws? Would it say no? Get in something healthier.
I think it probably just makes a flavor profile of whatever it is, and it just builds up of all sorts of amino acids and all that. I don't think it would have it would just cut out all the nasty stuff. And
this is just the only great question. How do replicators work? How do food synthesizers work? What do they actually do? What does that mean?
Something appetizing that tastes like sour punch straws, but gives me all the essential building blocks I'm looking for in them. Holy crap.
You could eat mint chocolate chip Bluebell ice cream and get all of your daily nutrition requirements, like forever.
Well, I think that's what the argument is that it's just a computer program of this recipe, and that it's never going to meet the actual taste of real things. Remember how Deanna Troy was always talking about how a chocolate sundae just isn't like the real thing? You know, I just think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like computers trying to approximate the taste, but can't, because taste is this like really evasive, specific human experience. Yeah. I
mean, I think they did show. I did like this. I don't know if it was this episode or the last one where they were actually showing the replicator constructing the DNA into the atoms into this suit. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. I love that.
Yeah, that's like the visually best scene in Star Trek so far, hands down, like ever, in my opinion.
I kind of liked it when Data laughed. Oh, never mind. Prettiest. All right. Hands down.
Oh, no, I meant like visual in terms of CGI or like Burnham rebuilding her personality after what happened and all of that. So maybe it is character related. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Right. Well,
I want my own suit now.
This was good. This was fun. This was more fun than I could have imagined, actually. So thank you all.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, next week we will have whatever that episode is called. The next one, the cool one. And thank you, listeners, for listening. And thank you, Richard, for being on, even though you left early because you had to. And thank you, Stefanie. Thank you, Tyler. Guys, lots of money.
All I heard was a make lots. Sorry.
Damn it, Stefanie.
We can do that too.
What?
Yes.
Just make lots of money.
Oh, yeah, that. Well, the forces from Star Wars. We will have a on my birthday when I come to New Orleans for a week. So I'm inviting you, both of you, to see it with me and my mother, and maybe Richard if he's there. Maybe another friend of mine. Yeah, because I'm a big Star Wars fan as well.
Oh, I'll get hands down for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, now all of our listeners know about my Christmas plans, which is the most important thing you're going to hear on this podcast. I knew that.
Well, I would love to watch Star Wars.
thing it turned into.
Okay. Well, y'all have a beautiful night, and thank you, listeners.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Ditto.
Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and enjoy and share these awesome videos. All right, have a great night.